All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's web Governments Embracing Blockchain. I'm your host, Lou Kerner with Blockchain Co-Investors, and we're a crypto fund-to-fund. And the genesis of this call was the announcement on June 30th of a partnership between CasperLabs, where in full disclosure, I'm an advisor and investor, with His Highness Sheikh Juma bin Maktoum, SJM Group of companies. And while there wasn't a lot of detail around specifically what they were going to build together, the implication was that it was going to be really significant. And it struck me that while there was a lot of talk about governments and central bank digital currencies, there hasn't been nearly as much talk about all of the other different blockchain related projects that governments are involved with around the world. And so we've got three great speakers to share their perspectives on governments and Saeed Al Darmaki with CasperLabs. Hey, Saeed.
Hey, Lou. Thanks for having me.
And again, where are you dialing in from?
I am usually based in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, but I'm currently traveling in Europe, in Athens at the moment.
Cool. Well, nice to have you. Saeed will be followed by Jafar Al Dori with Lead Ventures. Hey, Jafar.
Hello, guys.
And where are you at the moment?
I'm in Dubai right now. The weather is quite hot. That's why probably most of the people are outside of Dubai. But yeah, it's good to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. And our final speaker will be Austin Davis with Community Electricity. Hey, Austin.
Hey, Lou. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Good. And you're dialing in from LA?
Yes, but I barely off the plane from Cabo, so this is one of my first endeavors back from a wedding in Cabo. So it's exciting. Glad to be here with everybody.
Okay, terrific. So each of our guests will walk through a presentation, I think, that you've all got presentations, and if not, that's fine, for 6 to 8 minutes, and then with the audience. So if you have a question, put it into the Q&A function on Zoom, and if we pick your question, we'll let you know through the chat, and we'll ask you, and we'll bring you up on stage so you can open up your mic and video and ask the question and engage in the dialogue yourself. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Saeed with CasperLabs.
Yeah, thanks. I haven't prepared a presentation. I didn't realize we were supposed to present, but I'm happy to share my thoughts and experiences and
okay, terrific.
How I think governments are interacting with the blockchain, how they're viewing it, and how I feel they will be looking at it in the future as well. Maybe I'll touch on a few things that we've been doing at CasperLabs related to governments and share some insights there. But I think governments embracing blockchain is something that I feel is evolving, and it's still kind of in its infancy. And I think a lot of governments tend to be cautious about blockchain technology, and not just blockchain technology, but emerging technologies in general, where the full kind of range of risks that are associated with using emerging technologies can come up. So I think most governments out there have, in the past few years, been kind of looking at blockchain technology from a high level and trying to understand the implications of using the technology and the nuances of using the technology and the requirements and the tech requirements, and what they would have to do in order to utilize blockchain at a scalable level and at a higher level, and a widespread kind of adoption of blockchain technology. But I think at the moment, governments are kind of just looking at specific use cases that they feel will benefit them in general, and then doing a kind of a research and analysis on the existing technologies out there. And I think blockchain technology is still kind of developing. It's still pretty early stage. I think there's still a lot of protocols and specifically layer 1 and layer 2 protocols that are still going to keep coming up in the future. And I think as with any protocol, you know, protocols historically have been very good at doing one or two things, but I don't think there's protocols out there in whatever industry it is in, whether it's an internet or blockchain or whatever it is. I don't think there's a protocol out there that can meet every single requirement that an entity or a government or enterprise would be needing. So I think there's still a lot of development yet to happen with the technology out there, and governments are still kind of doing their research and getting a feel to what they can and can't do with the technology. But I think a lot of governments recently have, you know, kind of been more receptive to the idea of using blockchain, and they're pretty much, you know, kind of having a lot more knowledge about it, and more open to actually gaining knowledge about it, and maybe, you know, trying out the technology in specific kind of proof of concept stage, or, you know, MVP stage, or just planning stage. And I think it's still early for governments to fully utilize blockchain, but it's mostly because I don't think there's a lot of protocols out there that meet their requirements, especially in terms of, you know, having control of the network that they're building on, or, you know, and, you know, having things which are publicly kind of available, the data which is publicly available being on a permissionless network, and then having data which they prefer to have private on a permission setting. But I think with Casper Network, which CasperLabs has built over the last 2.5 years, I think it's a protocol that really fits in well with a lot of government kind of requirements before they use any specific technology. So that's something that I believe is a USP for CasperLabs, but I'd love to see more, you know, government adoption of blockchain, and I think that's going to come. It's a matter of time, and it's not a matter of when, you know, if, it's a matter of when.
Okay, terrific. And you said that, you know, that governments are looking at projects that are going to benefit them. You know, through what lens do you think the governments that you've been interacting with are looking through? What problems are they looking for blockchain to solve for them?
Yeah, so I think mostly would be in terms of probably in terms of efficiency, and cutting the time that's needed for a specific process or activity in the public sector, and you know, maybe in terms of also if there's data which is sensitive, securing data using blockchain. So I think there are several use cases out there that appeal to governments. So yeah, that's kind of the lens that they're looking at it through.
And in the time that you've been working with governments, what has you seen them, I guess, you know, get most excited about and kind of be most, you know, interested in leveraging about blockchain?
I think it's just in general cutting their costs, lowering their time to service the community and the society and people in the countries that they're governing. So I think they're probably not as excited as they could be if they, you know, they actually found a protocol or a specific, you know, nuance of the technology which really kind of fits in exactly to what they need. So I think there's still a lot of excitement that's still going to happen. At the moment, I think it's just the discovery phase, and then once it clicks with them and they actually think, oh yes, you know, actually we can do things so much better and so much faster after a specific case study or a specific use case, then I think you'll see them getting excited about that and the success of that. And I think we need some good case studies and successful stories out there in different governments globally. And then once the good news and the good use cases start coming out and start being fully implemented, then I think the excitement's really going to happen then, because it's going to be actual things that are happening, and not, you know, not potential things that are happening, but things that are actually happening, and they'll feel the benefit of it. And then once they see that, then you'll see them getting excited and you know, move on to the next stage.
Okay. Terrific. Well, thanks for those comments, and thanks for sticking around for the Q&A session. And next, we'll hear from Jafar.
Hi again. Just to give a little bit of a background about me and Lead Ventures. So I'm the director of strategic partnerships at Lead Ventures and the office of His Highness Sheikh Jum'a bin Maktoum Al Maktoum. We are heavily involved in many projects across the government in the UAE. When we talk about sustainability, renewable energy, a huge chunk of these projects, of course, is the blockchain. It's the #1 topic here in the UAE and especially in Dubai. Utilizing His Highness's name and I would say connections for us to build a solid community of blockchain/crypto in the UAE is very important, and it's one of our priorities. And I believe this is the #1 reason why we partnered up with CasperLabs, is because we wanted a solid partner for us to go to market with. What we found differently in CasperLabs was basically the kind of approach that they have, aside from the features that they have within their protocol. As you may know, blockchain has been warmly welcomed in the UAE as a technology. However, the main concern has always been around the legal framework of the cryptocurrency in the UAE. Now, if we want to talk about the blockchain as a technology, many of the government entities are happily adopting the technology. One use case that has been already implemented with the Department of Economic Development was actually the KYC process, which has been built over the blockchain. Now, of course, at the end of the day, Dubai has always been a market full of competition. And for us to bring in a protocol like CasperLabs, I think it will raise awareness to those government entities that there are more options and more protocols that could cater for their needs. At the end of the day, every single government entity has its own challenges and has its own requirements. It would only make sense to provide multiple protocols that can cater for those needs, and the flexibility of CasperLabs network will actually help us to get to whatever we want to head to, and basically provide all the solid grounds and the foundation for the government entities to adopt to the blockchain. Aside from that, of course, the educating factor, I think Saeed has touched based on that a little bit. When we want to see the excitement of the government entities, I believe they should know more about the blockchain for them to be excited about. And this is where we come in actually to educate them and to raise awareness towards the features and towards basically what they will be getting from adopting the blockchain. I think this is the most important thing at the end of the day. Now, Dubai has already established many initiatives in the blockchain. When we talk about Dubai blockchain strategy by 2021, which basically says that 50% of the government transactions will be conducted using a blockchain technology. Now, this is something that we are far from achieving, and this is why we would require much more assistance from people and organizations like CasperLabs in order for us to reach to those initiatives. Dubai has always been built on attracting the right talents and and the companies that can add value to the UAE. And this is the core of our partnership at the end of the day with CasperLabs. Last but not least, through our conversations with the DIFC and the DFSA, they are in the process of proposing a legal framework for the cryptocurrencies, which basically will be likely to come in effect by 2022. That will cover some, if not all, of the cryptocurrencies here in the UAE. Now, we do understand that it will be a primary legal framework, but of course, as we progress, the legal framework will be subject to change as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Sure, thanks for those comments. It's a lot of interesting stuff there. You started with saying that they're focused on helping build the community.
Yes.
Yeah, and how exactly would you describe kind of the community? You know, what does that entail?
I think it's no surprise that since 2016, the crypto community has not been 100% legit, just like any other industry. The main point and the main objective here is to basically attract the legit, credible talents into the UAE that will assist mainly the government as well as the central bank to ensure that the blockchain as well as the cryptocurrency adoption will be secured and will not bring so much trouble to the country. I think the power is within the people and the community. Attracting the right people and building a solid ecosystem that the government can trust is the most important thing.
Makes a lot of sense. You talked about the KYC that's been deployed via the blockchain. Can you give a little more, talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, as you know, the Department of Economic Development is the organization where all the companies across the UAE or Dubai are being registered at. So part of their blockchain adoption is that the KYC process will be conducted by a blockchain technology through understanding and knowing more about the manager of the license and the activity of the license and the people that will be on the license through a KYC and AML procedure. So, of course, this is not the only aspect of blockchain that we want to deploy within such organizations, but at least it gives us a start that could show the government entities what can be done. And it's our job to open up new horizons for them within the blockchain technology that they are adopting. But for now, it's more of the KYC process within this organization, and this is only one use case or example that has been fully adopted as of now. We're working with CasperLabs on a few of the use cases that will come basically to reality, hopefully very soon.
Exciting stuff. Thanks, and thanks for sticking around. And now we'll hear from our final speaker, Austin Davis. Austin?
Hello, just had to unmute myself. Yeah, thanks guys. That was great hearing from you both. And thanks Lou for getting us together here today. I will be sharing my screen. It's not a full-blown presentation, but I kind of have some different snapshots to show.
Let me give you that ability. One moment.
Excellent. And yeah, while you're doing that, I guess in general, obviously governments are interested in some of the high-level topics that we can all imagine, like
there you go.
The most easy to understand would be the financial and banking institutions and kind of the overall treasury departments of the government and how to better manage that. You see a lot of the adoption in Latin American countries lately in Bitcoin and other financial instruments that can help to alleviate some of the issues, inflation and all that that's going on. Healthcare, identity, those are very tricky, but they are being experimented with, of course, with blockchain. And when I think of identity, what resonates with me is more as identity of assets, infrastructure assets, large things like pipelines or devices even in your home and things like that. I think we need to be really securing all of our individual assets with unique identities and securing them with the technology that we all love. But those are some of the things that I'm passionate about. So speaking of security, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Am I sharing yet, Lou?
No, you should have the ability.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Right, the button should be green.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing the buttons in a different. Oh, there we go. Share content. Got it. Okay. Start broadcast. Can you see it now? See if you see anything here.
Yep.
Yeah. So energy is one, of course, that I'm very passionate about. And it's obviously here. This is the cityscape of Dubai with kind of some nodes on each of the skyscrapers connecting, and they're all communicating and transmitting energy back and forth as needed. That's a simple snapshot of a presentation that I did on stage in Dubai recently regarding energy. But before I dive into energy too much, I want to talk about the assets that kind of back up energy and everything else. So here's a recent example of something I think governments such as the US government is very interested in, is how to use blockchain technology to secure their assets and systems that connect and distribute energy and resources, and are a big security threat. The recent Colonial Pipeline hack was very big and shut down a lot of the gas pumps and caused a big panic and scare. And I remember seeing a video of some guy filling up his pickup truck lined with a tarp with gas. So it causes people to do really weird things when there's shortages, right? So beyond just the normal scare of what if we really ran out for weeks and months, what could happen is just the sheer panic that these attacks and the media fueling the kind of the fear kind of does. So it's beyond the threat. So that's a very big one, I think. Here's another one very recently here. South African ports had a big cyber attack and had to do a force majeure, so really shut them down there. And I think every government around the world should really be thinking about how to secure their infrastructure systems, water, gas pipelines, oil pipelines, all of our precious resources that can be turned off in an instant and be held ransom. So Herasoft is a partner with CasperLabs focusing on some of these builds. Traditionally, Herasoft focused on the gold products. That's why you see gold flooring here. It's a tokenized gold asset built for the European Union. And that's going really well, but cybersecurity is on the forefront for Herasoft, and Casper and Herasoft are working on some really great solutions for ransomware-proof systems, distributed cloud, all of that. So that's really important with supply chain logistics and the whole greater global ecosystem at large. Is how do we secure all of these networks that we're using so there's zero downtime and failure, because those are all very big for not just governments, but corporations and individuals as well. So that's a very big one. Now, skipping back over to the energy sector, this is something that I'm actively working on in Los Angeles and California in general, and this will be branching out to other states as well and other countries in Latin America that we're already in discussions with. It's kind of the decarbonization. And how do we do that? It's kind of all the stuff I was talking about before with connecting all the assets, having a very secure network where you can prove the origin of the energy, have more advanced trading options, and have more incentive programs that people can opt into. And a lot of these places, especially in California where we're working, are subsidized by large federal grants. That's where we're working with the California Energy Commission and the Department of Energy to really try to help create these communities that can kind of decarbonize themselves, and really focusing on environmental justice in these communities that are worst affected. Here's a snapshot of some of them in California. As you can see, it's a pretty big problem. I mean, when you've got fires and blackouts that are as dramatic as they are, obviously anything we can do to alleviate the climate issues locally is amazing. So, and California specifically is perfect for this because they're mandated to buy a certain percentage of clean energy, which is kind of how we stepped in. And develop these new programs and try to help scale them. There's a large amount of cap and trade available, over $6 billion that's been kind of allocated over a number of years. And there's a lot more coming over the next 3 years as well to keep that. So really it's a data-driven decarbonization protocol. And that's what we're excited about as far as working with governments on how to really build these more advanced energy communities so that people can be incentivized to live more green and focus on instead of producing energy way far away, there's enough sun in most places to really power locally, and if not solar, then wind or hydro or something else that could be beneficial. So I'll let this kind of scroll through really quickly. It's on number 4 here, but it'll go back to number 1 pretty quickly. It just kind of gives a quick snapshot of these advanced energy communities and how connecting everything from EV to the homes and putting a node in each home and all the devices, and all of this is subsidized. So basically, the folks in California can opt into these programs if they live in a highly polluted area, disadvantaged community or environmental justice community, and really take advantage of a lot of these things. And I think you'll start to see that spreading out. California tends to be a leader in energy in the United States, and kind of helps to push legislation and everything like that. And in other states follow. There's a lot of states that are pretty progressive in energy as well. So that's pretty much it for me. My biggest things are security for all assets and infrastructure, as well as advanced energy communities and how we can really help to grow and scale these things to make our lives a lot better.
And so your work, how close are you working with the governments on these? It's hand in hand?
Yeah, I mean, it's hand in hand with these. No, it is grant money, so it's not like we're locked in with the Department of Defense or anything where it's like total secret. So it's grant money that's told public. These are public programs that are available to anybody who lives in these communities, and there's 60% of LA qualifies. That's how bad the pollution is, right? Like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. If you look back at the map that was above, I mean, it shows you a snapshot of all these different affected areas. So there's a lot of issues in pollution that people aren't aware of, whether it's traffic or industry that kind of makes their congested area highly polluted. They qualify to help spin up these communities to alleviate that over time.
And where does blockchain come in?
So blockchain really secures the network, right? So there's, like I said, there's nodes in each home. So they're all kind of, each home or each device or asset now can almost be a node. Right now, it's really the homes and cars that are nodes. Eventually, that'll get smaller and smaller. There's micro nodes that can be plugged into smaller devices that are mobile as well. So blockchain really secures the network, helps to prove the origin of energy, because a lot of these projects are just greenwashing, right? Like if you tear down a forest to put up solar panels, that doesn't really help solve the problem. Like doing it locally does, actually. Oh, wait, I think that there's the broadcasting stop. Did my screen stop sharing?
No, yeah, it stopped sharing just because I stopped the sharing. Though we're still going.
Oh, no worries. Okay, I'll jump back on here. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah. So sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Where were we?
You're talking about leveraging the blockchain, how they were using.
Oh yeah, so it's for the network, proving the origin of the energy, because there's a lot of greenwashing going on. This really helps to alleviate some of those problems. But trading energy, looking forward, there should be a lot more peer-to-peer. It's hard right now because the utilities really can't be cut out, and they shouldn't be, because you do that overnight, you have a lot bigger problem. But over time, there should be a lot more peer-to-peer networks, right? Like they can't forever tell everybody, especially as we get more advanced as a civilization, that you can't sell energy to your neighbor just because we say so, right? Like look what happens in other countries. In Cuba, they plugged in all their own lines and connected all their homes and said, screw you, we're connecting. We have our own internet now. That's what happens if you tell people they can't do something for too long. So, there's give and take, right? That's why a certain amount of percentage is right now mandated clean energy. I think at a certain point in time in the future, we're lobbying, other big groups are lobbying, a lot of our partners on this project are big oil companies as well, because they have to modernize or die, right? So yeah, I mean, everybody's pushing for that. So hopefully soon enough, there'll be a mandated percentage in these areas that are peer-to-peer driven, right? So that's what we're going for long term.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, cool.
Yep.
Well, thanks for that, Austin. Thanks for sticking around. And we got our first question from Richard Kimball. Rick?
All right, thanks, Lou, and thanks for putting this on today. So I'm Rick Kimball. My background is I ran healthcare investment banking at Goldman Sachs. So healthcare is my interest. You mentioned healthcare, Austin. I'd be interested in any of the panelists' view on what you've seen so far in terms of blockchain deployments in healthcare, what you've seen been done so far, and what you think's working, and what's a model that can be replicated elsewhere around the world.
There has been one use case, or there has been kind of the US Health and Human Services has been looking at blockchain, and they've developed an application called Accelerate that manages control contract billing, and that utilizes blockchain. So that's one example. But I think where it makes sense and where it or if it's anything related to kind of, data or sensitive data within the healthcare sector, then I think there is a use case or there is a benefit to using blockchain. So I think there's still not that many case studies, but it's definitely being researched, and it's definitely an industry that blockchain can add a lot of benefits to. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more use cases, more case studies, more POCs coming out, and it's an industry that's very much blockchain can help with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. I think especially for a little bit less funded hospitals that have older computers and network systems, they're very easy targets for hackers to come in, take all the healthcare data of not only their patients, but much more debilitating services for the hospital to function day to day. And a lot of times they just pay it because it's easier than fighting. They say, all right, we're going to give you your 1,000 Bitcoin or whatever it is. And they probably don't even fully fix the problem. But that's a big issue, I think, is anything that puts the data back in the individual and the customer, the healthcare customer into their hands so that they're sharing it with the hospital instead of the other way around. Like, why should the hospitals own all the data and share it with you? I think all the individuals should own it and share it with the hospitals, on a permission basis, and even be able to recall that over time, So I think that's kind of where it is. And Harrisoft is actually working on something like that as well. So there's a lot of groups really focusing on that.
Okay, cool. Jafar, anything?
I mean, over here, locally speaking, the only use case that has been solid in the healthcare sector was the UAE Ministry of Health and Prevention. They have adopted the blockchain mainly for data storage. However, some private hospitals are utilizing or looking into utilizing the blockchain as a technology for the purpose of faster diagnostics and provide easier and faster access to the medical records within the hospital, which will increase the efficiency of the hospital. But we are yet to see solid use cases that will actually open new aspects of the blockchain within those organizations. And we will make sure that we will be working hand in hand with the government as well in that field and in that sector to maximize the efficiency and the usage of the blockchain technology.
Yeah, seems like so much massive opportunity in that space. Thanks a lot for the question, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And so if anybody else has a question, you can put it into the chat function or the Q&A function on Zoom. And Jafar, let me follow up on something you mentioned about the education. And that's, part of what you see, your role being as well, helping the market understand. Can you go into that a little bit deeper? What kinds of things are you educating people about? What are people?
So yeah, definitely. Now, there are two aspects of educating, or there are two types of audience that we need to educate. Number one is, of course, we spoke about the government entities and their adoption their knowledge about the blockchain as a technology. Number two, educating the public and raising awareness about the technology as a usage for the future purposes. You know, it's a new technology. Not many of the public knows much about it, and I think we should work hand in hand, especially with the academic institutions, universities, even schools, to raise awareness. At the end of the day, if the blockchain were to be fully implemented in the UAE, there has to be some young talents that will actually work on those and develop the technologies within those organizations. So it's nothing less important than any other major in the universities. I think it's we will see the fruits of this step if it was implemented now for 4 years from now at least. But I think it will build a very solid ground for the younger generations and the talents to basically innovate and work within the technologies. It doesn't make sense for us to keep attracting talents from all over the world. I think we have everything we need for our local talents to be working hand in hand with those international or global expertise. But of course, we need to prepare them for that. And I think the educational institutions and enrolling the blockchain as an academic curriculum will be very, very useful. I think this is the most efficient way to do it. Aside from that, I think we are conducting enough events here in the UAE that could shed light on the blockchain as a technology and the cryptocurrency model, basically. But I think we should do it on a bigger level and think far across, and for us to make that happen and do it the right way. Basically, it might take some time, but it's the right way to do it.
Sounds like the right way to do it. So we get our next question from Nakeem. Nakeem, if you want to, there you go.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative. So I currently work in the medical device industry, and also my wife works in the pharmaceutical industry. And one of the main issues that we are aware of, traceability of products, especially when there's a recall that takes place. Getting all the information from the field, what's in the current, and in the warehouse itself. It takes days to collect this information. Will CasperLabs be working with the pharma and medical device industries to help resolve these issues and make the process more efficient?
Great, thank you, Nick. And I think I'll probably have a shot at this one. So yeah, I think traceability, in terms of traceability in general, that's a great use case for blockchain technology. And for CasperLabs and Casper Network, we are working with IPW, which is one of the largest kind of global IP management and IP marketplace kind of platform. And there they have had issues with kind of authenticity and traceability of these IPs that are trading on their marketplace. So in terms of the use case, I believe that you will see in the very near future traceability and proof of origin of any kind of products or services. And I would expect that to go across multiple industries, not just in the IP kind of industry, but yeah, I would like to think that some point, maybe in the next 6 months to 12 months, we'll be pretty advanced with that use case on Casper, and very much believe that you'll see that what we can do on our protocol to support this use case is going to be utilized by multiple sectors and multiple industries. So for us, what we're focused on is actually, getting through a proof of concept and MVP, and then implementation of specific use cases and once you have successful case studies of specific use cases, then you can kind of scale from there, and it's an easier conversation to have with potential organizations or enterprises that are thinking about that specific use case. So I think with time, things will definitely move forward a lot faster, and over this kind of medium to long term, there will be multiple industries, multiple enterprises, multiple governments even that will look to build these use cases on Casper network or any other protocol that can sufficiently handle that use case.
Thank you.
Hey, terrific. Thanks for the question. I'll take another question around, Jafar, something that you said about the government, has a goal of 50% of the transactions, of the government transaction happening on blockchain. When do you think that, as you're looking out now, given what you see, when do you think the government, might be able to achieve that? And Saeed, obviously interested in your opinion on this as well.
You mean in terms of a timeline?
Yeah. And I assume I know it's a guess at this point.
It's not a guess. It's basically more of the progress that has been happening within the blockchain adoption, whether it's with the with smart Dubai or the other concerned government entities. However, the main focus of what's been happening right now, or the operations of what's going on, is basically the research. I think Saeed has touched on that. I believe that we're in the process of studying and analyzing what is the best approach towards the blockchain and how it can be implemented. Some of the use cases have helped us understand more about the blockchain, such as the one that I mentioned earlier with the DED. But I think we have a long way to understand more about the blockchain, what is the best approach, and how to implement it from a government and a country level. So I think this will take some time. For us, we'd rather stay cautious and understand more about it, because if we want to be the leaders in that, then it has to be implemented based on real and solid research and analyzation, and this will actually give us the time that we need in order for us to be, because as you know, Dubai and the royal family has always put it out there as a goal to be the number one in basically all the sectors, and the blockchain is one of them. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. This will take some time. However, our main purpose and objective is to expedite this, because we want to see that happening very soon. So the strategy is, by the end of 2021, 50% of the government transactions will be conducted over blockchain. Of course, this 50% transaction will actually give us some sort of insights on what was done right and what was done wrong, which will actually pave the way for the next 50% to be done. But we'd rather take our time in that and make sure that it's being implemented in the most perfect way possible.
Okay. Makes makes a lot of sense. So Saeed, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think the target date was very ambitious, and I think the end of 2021, the focus has now been for the Dubai government to have everything paperless by the end of 2021. But ultimately, if everything is, if all information and data is digital by that time period, then I think it will make it more important for for the Dubai government entities to be actually utilizing blockchain, because once you have that much data digitally, and it needs, most of it's going to be sensitive data, then you need to secure it. And then, with so much data, if there's multiple government entities that are actually, trying to get access to the data at the same time, having it distributed and secure makes logical sense. So I think maybe end of this year might not be possible, but maybe the end of next year or the year after would be a more kind of a realistic timeline. But I have no doubts that once all the data that the government has on record becomes digital, then I think that will accelerate the rate of the need to adopt blockchain as well.
Even if it happened in a year or 2 years, I would still think that would put you out in front of the rest of the world. Well, this has been a great call. We don't have any more questions, but I'll finish up with one question. We'll start with Austin. You can start first, and then Saeed, and we can finish with Jafar. But the question would be, this was a call about kind of governments and blockchain risk and reward. If we were on this call in a year from today, what do you think we'd be talking about on that call a year from today when we're talking about governments and blockchain that we're not talking about today?
That's the only part that threw me off, because a year today, I think we would see more cyber attacks, more issues, and more need, even financially, like the other countries I was talking about lately that have been adopting. But that's not different than what you're talking about now. I think if it were to be something different, we would be talking about which countries. There'd be a lot more use cases, I think, a year from now, and pilot programs going. The one I mentioned is great, but it is relatively small. Like, we need to be doing it a lot bigger scale. So hopefully, I'm hopeful that we'll start to talk about a lot more real-time use cases, instead of the fact that it's very early and that most of these things are experimental, right? So that would be my hope for the future a year from now.
Thanks.
Yep.
Saeed?
I think for me, I think a year from now, I hope that we'll be talking about a higher number of use cases, a higher number of actual governments adopting blockchain, and we might possibly be kind of talking about some kind of really significant and impactful kind of adoption of blockchain by a really significant government related to a very important kind of process or activity. And that's very important to the economy, maybe, or very important to the government, or very important to people in a country, or that's represented by a government. So I think a year from now, I would hope to see something significant, even if it's just like a proof of concept, or kind of a very kind of testing phase. I believe if that conversation happens next year, it would be around those lines.
Okay. Jafar, you get the last word.
That's a tough one, but I believe the government will have so much more exposure to the technology. But on the other hand, I believe that the challenges will basically multiply, and that's because of, in case hopefully the cryptocurrencies and the digital assets were to be regulated, then I believe this will open up the doors for much more difficult challenges that we have to be ready for. And in order for us to make sure that we overcome those challenges, then the work has to start from yesterday. But from a vision point of view, I hope to see many use cases within the government organizations from every sector, and the educational aspect of it will never disappear. I believe the blockchain is a fast-moving technology, and the educational aspect of it will always be there. So as we progress, then the education and the level of knowledge should progress as well. But I'm optimistic about what the future holds for us, and we have to be ready for it.
Okay, thanks, Jafar. I share your optimism. So thanks a lot, Austin, Saeed, Jafar, for participating on the call today. I thought it was terrific. Thanks, everybody who dialed in.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
day.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks, everybody.
Have a
Good
good
chatting
day.
with you guys. Talk soon.
Okay.